thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cyndi O'Meara, Carren Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Carren Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And today we are all feeling a little bit flat, I guess. We have farewelled our beautiful Jess Ainscough, and we really wanted to share with you the podcast that we've done with Jess over the next 2 weeks, just as a reminder of this beautiful soul's journey and who she has been for all of us and who she's actually been for humanity. And I think that in the podcast that you're about to listen to, she really shares herself with quite open vulnerability. And for all three of us, when we did this recording with Jess, we left feeling like new women. We left feeling completely inspired by this young 29-year-old girl who was going through her own personal battles, but sharing her journey with the world along the way, wasn't she?
She did. And we've just actually left her home because we've been to her cremation and the celebration of her life, which Kim officiated. Kim was to be the celebrant at their wedding, and she ended up doing it. A beautiful job, Kim.
You did.
It was an absolutely beautiful job. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, but you just did it with absolute dignity and grace, and I think Talon and Cole were so happy about it. So we've just left. We recorded at Jess's place, and we've just left her place now. And yeah, it's going to be over 2 weeks. We interviewed Jess, so you'll for the next 2 weeks you'll get that information that we got, and that has already been played, but we want to play it again, and we would love you to listen to it again.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about Jess, if there's anything that we can all take from it, is her championing way of living in the moment, of living life to the fullest. And you know what, her greatest thing that I took from her is she always had hope right to the end. And, you know, we don't know in our human ways why she's been taken. We don't understand. We're still probably in the depths of grief with it, really. So it's even a little bit hard for us to comprehend. And whilst we all know that there's reasons and there's perhaps spiritual things that we don't even have a possibility of understanding, it's still hard in the humanness of this to actually come to terms with her being gone. But I think why we chose to really want to just play these again was because she was a remarkable woman. She wasn't someone who played life at a half-mast. She really played full out, and in honour of her, we felt it was important, didn't we, to share her again. So even if you've listened to it again, I think, like us, you'll hear it with different ears.
And you'll hear it in a new light.
Yeah, new ears, new light. And I'm going to be definitely listening to it again.
So sit back and relax, everybody. You're about to be enamoured by the world's most incredible soul and the greatest gift that I think humanity has seen. And I look forward to seeing her legacy be that of Van Gogh, that she becomes greater in her absence than what she was when she was here, because she shared her light through such innocence, such humility, so humble, so
naughty. She was also naughty. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, talk about swear like a trooper. But hilarious.
So she wasn't perfect.
Oh no, she was.
She was perfect in every way. We loved her.
Sit back and relax and enjoy today's podcast and next week's podcast. And we hope you love it.
So go to the Facebook page to share your call. Do you want us? Should we hear what they feel from here? What have they learnt from Jess? You know, that's what I would love to see. Like, how were you touched by Jess? And I know that we always say go to the Facebook page and put your comment, but I think the most amazing thing is, how did she touch you? For those of you that have been touched by Jess Ainscough, how has she touched and empowered your life? Why don't we share things like that?
Sounds beautiful.
Sounds great.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within.
I'm Carren Smith.
I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cyndi O'Meara.
And she's eating meat.
Engrossing them right out. Just putting it out there.
And you know what? Really, it's, good. Kim's going to get some photos.
And the dog loves me. Look at this.
That's so
Ziggy
cute.
loves me.
So, listeners, today we are at the beautiful, amazing, inspiring creature. Her name is Jess Ainscough. So we're at Jess's house right now, and we've decided that we wanted to interview Jess because we believe she's got a story that will move the hearts and minds of millions. And she's also somebody who is blazing her own trail and her own path in the wellness genre, where, plant-based diets, Cyndi.
While I eat my meat.
While you eat your meat. Plant-based diets are a way to go. And I have to say that, Jess, you've been an amazing inspiration for me because my diet has been nothing short of traumatic, probably over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. And since you and I started working more closely together, I've watched you glow and grow. And it's really inspired me. And you're one of the key people that I originally... Well, you are the person that I originally started following with your Make Peace With Your Plate ebook and all of your recipes. You were the very first person that I started following, and yours were the very first recipes and books that I downloaded. Oh, now that's Ziggy. That's Jess's little baby who you're going to see a photo of when you go to the website. The cutest little thing you've ever seen, but quite demanding. Eating Cyndi's meat. I love it.
Look at that face.
Look at it.
Oh, look at that face. I like the way you lick your nose every time you eat the meat.
Nice.
Where are those manners?
Where are they?
Yeah.
Where are
He'll shake. He does know some of the tricks.
You should put a sign on him that says, "We'll shake for food." So, you've been a huge inspiration to me and, on my path of moving from eating meat to having a plant-based diet and now, being a little bit more, I think probably about 70 or 80% raw now, thanks to you. So we thought that it would be a really cool podcast for you to share your story because it's certainly a story that a lot of people need to know about, in lots of contexts. So, and you're not going to give anything away. But it would be really cool for you to share your story and your journey and how you've gone from where you were to where you are. That would be really groovy.
Yeah.
Sure. So it all started back in.
Well, it all started back in 2008, which was almost 6 years ago. In a couple of weeks, it'll be 6 years since all of this started for me. Yeah, on the 24th of April. 2008 was when I was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer called epithelioid sarcoma. And prior to that, I was living in Sydney. I was working at Dolly Magazine as their online editor. And I was just like climbing that career ladder. I had really high hopes for myself in the magazine industry. And my lifestyle, looking back, was just...
typical of a young person.
It was a wreck. Yeah, but it was typical. I was 22.
You were 22, right?
Yeah, so I was 22, and my lifestyle was so much fun. I mean, I had access to the best parties 3-4 nights a week, where I was fed a steady stream of free alcohol and free canapes. And I didn't know how to take care of myself, but I didn't really see that as an importance because I was just having a ball.
And most 22-year-olds don't, because you are just having a ball. Your body looks awesome. You've got energy to burn. You can back up day after day, hangover after hangover. You can back it up and go from like Thursday through to Sunday night with ease.
Yeah.
I remember those days myself. Like it was just...
Oh, no, they can't have been that good if you remembered them.
Touche. Good point there.
Yeah, you should only be able to remember snippets.
Yes.
And then piece all those together.
Actually, you shouldn't have any memory. The only thing you should have is photographs.
Now, all the young people don't listen to these three. I wasn't like that at all.
No.
No, I didn't do that. No, I didn't. No. So, not everybody does it.
Actually, I was only talking to my sister today, and she was saying the same thing. She said because I was the youngest and she was the oldest, she kind of
was the most responsible in the family, and because she was ahead and I could always look up to her, I knew she'd rescue me, I was the least responsible, so I got into all the trouble. Well, it's interesting, isn't it, the family dynamics of...
Well, my sister got into all the trouble.
Yeah.
And she was the oldest.
And she was the oldest.
Oh,
and
yeah, right.
she got into... But then I watched what she was doing and how it hurt my parents.
Right.
And I didn't want to hurt my parents because I love my parents, And so it's really interesting,
But I don't think she hurt them because she didn't love them. Did she?
No, not at all. She did it because that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to go out and party and drink and smoke and whatever else she did. And we know what she did because she got pregnant.
Yeah, right.
Very young.
So back to Jess.
Back to Jess. It's not about us today.
So you're partying hard.
Yeah.
You're out all weekend.
Yeah, and I didn't really know how good my body was supposed to feel because it was just pretty much always hungover. I mean, I was tired and I was hungover and I was struggling and my body was sick, but I didn't recognize it because I didn't have any kind of anything to compare it to because that's just how I felt all the time. I was always hungover or recovering from something or had lack of sleep and just burning the candle at both ends. But I was doing really well. I mean, I had this amazing job. I had a great boyfriend. I had this...
Were you with Talon?
No, different boyfriend.
Okay.
Okay, no, that was someone else.
Yeah, right.
That was somebody else.
Right you are. Foot in mouth. Let us not speak of that again.
We were friends back then.
Because Jess has got the most gorgeous, spunky partner, and he's so good to you.
Yeah.
He's so good to you. So make sure you weave him in into the stories when you meet him. Because I think that's going to be so good to hear.
Well, I met him when I was 19 and very much in my party phase. So our relationship now to what it was back then is polar opposites.
Right.
Yeah, because we fed off each other back then and not in a good way. Whereas these days it's the opposite.
Yeah, right. Because he's very much like you.
Yeah. Well, he never used to be. He was, yeah.
Cool,
Very
okay.
supportive of my old lifestyle.
Were you together back then, you mean?
We were for 4 months, split up. I moved to Sydney, and then we got back together when I moved back to the coast.
Nice. Okay, so go back to where you were partying.
Okay, so yes. I was partying a lot. I was drinking a lot. I was taking a lot of drugs. All of the fun stuff that any typical person in their early 20s does. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. So,
First of all, what was the symptoms? Like, what happened for you to even get to that point?
well, Cyndi knows this story of when my symptoms started. Not many people know this because I don't speak about it often, but my symptoms started when I was 16 years old. And I can only know that now looking back and joining all the dots. But I had swelling around my left hand when I was 16. I went off to the doctor and I had blood tests done and they couldn't tell me why I had swelling in my hand. They gave me cortisol cream and they gave me all of this stuff to try and get rid of it. But the blood test came back and said that I had a very struggling liver. So they said my liver was basically not working properly. And he asked me if I was a drinker. And I had to admit that, yes, I was.
In front of her parents.
In front of my mother in the doctor's office at 16 years old.
Bugger.
Yeah.
Caught out.
Sprung.
Yeah.
It's like busted.
Yeah. So that
in
was the
worst
first sign that something was up with my body. But it was also the first sign that I ignored. I mean, I tried to stop drinking. For about 3 weeks. But then went right back because I was young and that's what everybody around me was doing. And it wasn't convenient for me to clean up my life. So I just went right back to doing everything that I was doing. And it wasn't until back in 2006, my first year when I was living in Sydney, that my left middle finger started to swell and started to cramp up. And at first I thought it was like carpal tunnel or just a result of too much typing or something like that. But I took myself off to the doctor, had the swelling taken out of my left middle finger. That was diagnosed as a benign tumour. And I was just sent away to say, okay, that's it, it's a benign tumour, all good. But then in the 18 months after that surgery, little lumps started to pop up all over my hand, arm, and all the way up to my armpit.
Wow.
And then I had more scans done, I had ultrasounds, all of that. We biopsied some of the lumps, and this time it came back as malignant cancer. So this is diagnosed as a rare form called epithelioid sarcoma.
Were you on your own when you got told that?
Yes, I was, which is a bit
God, so they didn't say bring someone with you?
No, which was a bit shocking. My parents were a bit angry about that because I lived in Sydney. I lived with my boyfriend, but they didn't say bring somebody in. I thought I was going in there to get my stitches taken out and my cast taken off because my arm was in a cast. I was really excited. I had the MTV Awards in a couple of days after that, and I thought, oh yay, getting the cast taken off, so I'll look good. And then bam, they said,
What do you remember in that moment feeling? What do you remember? And how did you feel? And did you have flashbacks, or did you think, oh my gosh, what have I done? Or what went through your head?
I just went numb. Like every time I get, because I've been diagnosed a couple of times now, and every time it happens, it's the same feeling of just numbness and a sickness in the stomach and just shock. Like I didn't cry. I didn't really show how I was feeling. I just kind of just went numb and just couldn't really believe that it was happening.
Did your parents fly up? Did they?
Yes, my mum was in holidays in Tasmania at the time. She flew up that afternoon and Dad flew in that night as well. Yeah. And they basically didn't leave. Yeah. Mum pretty much moved herself in and started just researching everything and taking care of me, and she changed my diet pretty much from the start, and with my resistance because I really didn't want to.
Are you an only child?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So then they would have really committed and wanting it. And when you say research, was she quite a vigilant researcher, like interested in all options? Or?
All options.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't know much about alternative medicine back then. I mean, my nan had passed away from cancer, 2001. And we'd done a bit of research, or Mum had done a bit of research back then. So she knew about things like ghosting therapy and juicing and all of that. So we started doing it, but not doing it properly. I mean, I was just getting juice from Boost Juice and thinking that was okay. And
that's healthy option.
Yeah. I had no idea.
A smoothie at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that hilarious?
That is hysterical. Let's get healthy. Smoothie at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Commercial juice.
Or a healthy version at Kentucky Fried Chicken is a wrap.
Yeah. But
I guess if you don't know different.
If you don't know differently. Yeah. Another thing, when you laugh about the Hungry Jack's thing, or what did you say, KFC? I went to Red Rooster and I ordered a wrap. Just like, what did I get? I can't remember what it was, but I ordered something that I thought was healthy. And I'm like, yep, this is it. I'm doing a good job. I just had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea how to take care of myself. But Mum was definitely the driving force behind all the researching and just became obsessed with it. And I hated it because she was telling me all of these things that I could no longer have. And I was just like, please stop reading. Stop taking away things from my diet. Yeah, I thought that my life was over because I was no longer allowed to eat Thai food and pizza, and I was no longer allowed to drink.
And what about your friends? What happened? Was there a network that surrounded you, or did everyone pull away from you? Because you can have that polar extreme.
No, they were amazing. I've got the best friends. I've had the same solid group of friends since I was 13, and they were just incredible. And then my friends in Sydney were the same, just amazing. Yeah, I haven't had any kind of people pull away from me throughout this whole journey, which has been really, really good. That's surprising. Awesome. It's been surprising with how many changes I've made, and in the beginning how much of an aggressive arsehole I was, pushing my beliefs on everybody around me.
Oh, were you like a reformed smoker?
Kind of, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and no one left, which was good.
They
all bit their tongue.
They made allowances.
I'm sure they spoke about me behind my back, but
quick, she's coming.
There. Yeah.
Here she is. Hi.
That's right, Ziggy.
Ziggy knows.
Yeah.
Ziggy knows. And so what happened? How long was this period of your mum researching, you're changing your diet? How long? What happened next?
Gosh, that period lasted 5 years. We just never stopped. It was just constant researching and surrounding ourselves with all of this information. And in the beginning, because I was told that I had this cancer and the doctors didn't really have any options for me. So they said that chemotherapy wasn't going to work, radiation wasn't going to work, and they couldn't really operate because there were so many tiny little tumours in my arm. We couldn't just cut them all out.
So only your left arm?
Only my left arm. So my doctors wanted to amputate. That was their first option, and that's what they thought was going to get rid, or not even get rid of this. They said that it was going to buy me time. They said...
So do you mind me interrupting you here?
Yeah.
Can you just explain what sort of cancer it is? And therefore,
Yeah.
and is it only in your arm that you get it? Is that what you're saying?
It's soft tissue.
Okay.
So it's in the soft tissue of my left arm, and it hasn't spread any further, which is good. Very,
so
very
people
good.
can get it in any area of the body?
Mostly limbs. It usually occurs in young adults and in the limbs first, and then it can spread to other body parts, but it starts in fingers, toes, arms. Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I just know, from Cindy's perspective, you know, I mean, she got the first symptoms at 16, but obviously there was no relativity around what it was. And then her life. So, was it the environment or is that genetic? Like, what? Because her grandmother died of cancer. Like, how would that have worked with someone like Jess? She wasn't partying, or she had just started partying and drinking at 16.
Well, you know, we have so many antecedents of our life, which is what's happened before. And we know that our grandparents, what they do, affect what happens to us. And they're even looking at 5 generations as epigenetics. So what our grandparents do affect so many other generations. So we don't know, you know, nobody knows. It's like we're trying to guess. But no doubt something happened in Jess's life. But my other thought with Jess is, and where Jess has gone from this, and everyone's going to learn this, is that if this didn't happen to Jess, she wouldn't be where she is right now.
No.
She wouldn't have changed. And the fact that at 16 her body was telling her, hey, alcohol's not good for you, and she didn't want to listen, then she paid the consequences. And that's what most people do, is that they don't listen to their bodies. Yeah. And they pay the consequences, whether it be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the track. So was it genetics? She may have had a gene there, but it would have been the environment that pulled the trigger. Because we know the genes are the loaded gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. So I believe that you probably did have a susceptibility to it. Yes. And you probably did have that susceptibility to it, but then you kept drinking and you kept partying and you kept throwing in McDonald's, didn't you? Do McDonald's?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes, you did McDonald's.
Yeah. And not just that, I didn't like myself at all. Like, underneath it all, I wasn't very kind to myself. Beat myself up constantly. I thought I was fat. I thought I was inadequate. I didn't think I had a good personality. So not only was I abusing myself with alcohol and with poor foods, but mentally and emotionally, I wasn't...
Do you think that's typical of women of that age?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like Cyndi said, I just truly believe that this was supposed to happen to me. I don't know. It was just supposed to happen.
Of course.
That's like, I don't regret. Like, people always ask me, do I regret everything that I did? Like, do I regret the drinking and the drugs? And not at all. Because it was so much fun. Like, so much fun.
It was so much fun. Don't listen to her, anybody out there that's 16.
I had a ball. The thing I regret was how nasty I was to myself mentally. I think that played more of a part than anything else.
Talk about that. Like, what used to go through your mind that makes it so memorable to you now when you reflect back on that time of your life? Because a lot of people would say, when they look back on that time of their life, yeah, I was partying, I was doing this, I had this boyfriend or that girlfriend, and I lived here, and I had this job, or I drove this car, or travelled here or travelled there. But most people wouldn't have a recollection of the conversation that used to go on between their two ears. But you do. And it's obviously very poignant. So what was that?
I don't remember exactly what used to go through my head, but it was along the lines of just not feeling like I was good enough in any kind of scenario. Like, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. That I didn't have a good personality, and that's also one of the reasons why I drank so much, because I thought that made me more fun and more interesting. And made me comfortable in front of people. I mean, I was always shy. I was especially shy in front of boys. Very introverted in a way. And then alcohol kind of broke down those walls a little bit. So I just didn't think that I was good enough.
What would you say to if there was mothers and daughters listening, or young women listening to this now in hindsight? What would you say? Would you still say, hey, do the drugs, do the drinking, do the partying? Like, is that seriously what you're saying?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think if you... I don't tell anyone not to do it. I don't agree with the binge drinking and how much people write themselves off, especially me in the past. But like, I was always kind of sensible. Like, I didn't really write myself off that badly. I just had fun with it. I didn't do it. I've never had alcohol poisoning. I never got to that point. I just had fun. But yeah, I do think there's a big issue with teenagers doing that because they just go and they write themselves off.
But do you think they're doing that because of the same feelings you have, the inadequacy?
Yeah, totally.
So
that's a big
how do we
driving
stop
force.
this?
We just need to teach girls more about self-love. Like, if somebody had said to me back then, you need to love yourself, I would have laughed. Like, I would have thought, oh, God. I wouldn't even know what it meant. I had never have said to myself, I love myself, because it just felt so foreign.
But you had such loving, caring parents.
Absolutely.
So where did that come from, do you think?
But then, I mean, the conversations I had with them weren't really around this stuff either. Like,
no.
They were very loving and very supportive and amazing. I've got the best parents ever, but we never had conversations around self-love at all.
And most families actually don't.
No.
Like most normal traditional families, you're just doing the do every day and going to work and coming home and having, family time and maybe going and doing stuff, but nobody's really talking about the feelings of inadequacy that lives at the feet of every human being.
Yeah.
Of the I'm not good enough that has us all by the throat. We're never talking about that with our kids and getting our kids to express where that's come from, how they're feeling and what other alternatives exist. It's just not part of a day-to-day conversation.
Yeah, not at all.
And not until it's too late. Until the kids are we either get sick or we'll end up with, psychological barriers that stand in our way to progress.
Well, sometimes what creates the opportunity for that is there's a family breakdown, or there's a fight between siblings, or there's an issue that you then all sit down and address. But there was a great little thing that I got given years ago. It was actually a gift I got when I was pregnant, and it was called Conversations at the Table. And it's a little box, and I reckon you could make your own one, but it was a little box, and we'd all put it on the table when the kids were little, and of course they couldn't read, and they'd choose a card, and it would be like, tell everyone what was the best part of your day today. And another one was, if money was no option, what would you want to do with you and your family? And it was like conversations that you just, and tell everyone at the table what you think of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a very clever way to start young people talking.
If my parents had tried to do that with me as a teenager, I would have just...
No, I'm talking when they were young.
Yeah.
So for me, so for us, it's normal in our family to have a conversation like this, but I'm sure it's because it started when they were young.
Yeah.
I mean, I was given that when I was pregnant.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, just recently, Jacob had a bit of a meltdown, and he was actually really aggressive and being really horrible, and everyone was just like, what's your problem? And everyone was getting angry and aggressive back, until I could see the break in him. And then we sat at the table and he fell apart, and then we all just energetically hugged him. No one moved, but everyone was kind of like sitting there, and it came out and we just allowed him the space to say it. And his fear was being the son of a cricketer, and he'd got out that day on a low score or something or other, and he actually felt like he was never going to be good enough because he was the son of. Now, you saying this, I'm sitting here going, I'm really grateful we actually have these conversations.
Yeah.
That we all told him how amazing he is, and even if he doesn't believe it, he's hearing it verbally, and I'm hoping through that conversation. So that might be something that would be, to me, hearing you say that makes me realise how important it is that we have these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you don't have the conversations at school either. I mean, you don't get taught this amongst your group of friends. It's never spoken about. I mean, we feed off each other's negative self-beliefs. Like, we sit there and go, oh, God, I'm so fat today. And then somebody else goes, no, God, no, I'm so fat today.
Yeah.
And then nobody breaks that. It's just you go around the circle talking about how crap you are.
And how crap everybody else is. Because
Yeah.
at that age, you're bitching about everybody else.
Yeah.
And talking about everybody else. And everybody's talking about everybody.
Yeah.
And then everything gets back to everybody. And it just feeds that whole...
This is really interesting, because my era, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
There was no talk about being fat. There was no conversation. I remember we used to sit out with our skirts up to our as far high as we could get them, and we were in school uniform, and our socks down, and getting a tan every lunchtime. Talking about we needed to shave our legs. There was never a conversation back then. So our generation was
Cindy's
very
quite
different.
old.
I'm older. I'm
older.
definitely a lot older. I'm your mum's era, you know? I'm your mum's era. And we just, I'm not listening. I'm ignoring her right now.
Well, I guess my mum was the same. I mean, she never had any body issues, really. So, I don't know. We never spoke about that at home because...
But I think you think about the magazines and the things that we look at and we compare ourselves to and what we want to be and, you know, the girls who get the guys. You know, you look at those sorts of people and then we compare ourselves to that. And when we're not that or what we see in the mirror doesn't reflect that, then we're going to have something to say about it.
And I also I just did not feel good about myself because I was feeding myself so much crap. Like... These days I've gotten to a place where I absolutely love my body, but it's so clean. It looks like how it's supposed to. Like I'm my ideal weight, and like if you look at photos from when I was 14, it's quite shocking.
Right, you're getting them out after this. I want to see them. I can't imagine.
They're hilarious.
Are they? I can't imagine because what we see in front of us, everybody, is a young, beautiful, young, svelte, gorgeous young woman. So I can't imagine.
Like I wasn't. You would not look at me and say that I was fat, but I had a much rounder face and
so a bit of puff.
Yeah, I was puffy.
Yeah.
I was puffy
But most young women and men, if you look at the schools these days, they look like
they're
that.
puffed.
Just
swollen.
And you saying that you didn't feel very good, you had no comparison. So I'd imagine that most of our kids these days are feeling this way because they don't know any other feeling.
Yeah.
It's quite scary.
Yeah.
It's quite sad that they don't know, and they think that by having 2-minute noodles or with a few vegetables maybe thrown in there, maybe, or they think that having takeaways only once a week, or they think by putting these chemical things like Proactive on their skin to stop the pimples that have been caused through what they're eating anyway. You know, it's a vicious cycle. Actually, it's quite scary.
Absolutely, we just have no idea. And that's what drives the self-loathing, because you don't feel good.
That's I think that's the crux of it, is that when I was growing up, we had real food, only real food. And so we fed our physical body what it needed. And therefore, of course, your physical body and your mind or your brain is connected.
Yeah.
And whereas your era, you know, this was the beginning of fast foods and foods that weren't real anymore. And...
Ziggy has a lot to say.
A lot to say
On the matter.
Oh,
You shouldn't have started.
He talks. He's so funny. He's actually having a little conversation.
He's actually agreeing with me that, you know, that was the case back then. Is it? And then when you started, you know, the foods were different.
Yeah,
and,
they were.
We've got to realise that the physical body and the brain is so connected.
Yeah.
It's so connected that when you're feeding one, you're feeding the other.
Yeah.
And it's both ways. It's how you feel about yourself, because we know there's behavioural epigenetics now. And behavioural epigenetics says that what you think changes your cell structures, and changes your cell biology.
So, just take us back to the story. Take us back to the journey in terms of what happened. So the doctors gave you the diagnosis. They said that amputating your arm was only going to buy you time. This part of the story I find is actually, for me, the most inspirational. When you... because they did give you chemotherapy, didn't they? They pumped your arm full of chemotherapy.
Yeah, so amputation was the first thing that was on the table, and this was probably the lowest point of my whole journey, because I felt like I had no other options. I felt like the only thing that I could do to prolong my life was to amputate my arm at the shoulder, and I didn't want to do it. It made me feel sick. Like I went through a good week with this, trying to make this decision of whether to do nothing or to do this amputation. I really wanted to do nothing. But I had everybody around me. I don't know. I felt like it was my responsibility to do something. So I signed those papers and agreed to have the amputation. And I was all booked in to have it. And I spent hours at work Googling prosthetic arms, just trying to find some kind of peace with this situation that I thought I had no other option but to take. But a couple of days before I was due to have the operation, my doctor's receptionist called and said, all of the doctors have had a meeting, because I had several doctors on this case, being such a weird one, and they want to try something else. And so that's when they came up with this isolated limb infusion, which was a super high dose of chemotherapy that they pumped through my left arm. They tourniqueted at the shoulder and they just pumped the arm full of drugs. They said that it was about 10 times as much as they would put into a regular body, because dosing, they had to tourniquet it off and not allow it into my body, because if you put that into a regular body, you would die.
It would kill you.
It would kill you. So they pumped it through my arm, and they thought, okay, well, regular chemo won't work, but if we up the dose this much, maybe it will have some kind of effect. Well, it burnt my arm from the inside out. It was so painful. My arm swelled up to like 10 times its regular size. And, I mean, it's been 6 years and I'm still dealing with swelling and damage that's in this arm. But I still don't say that I regret that decision, because if I hadn't have done that, I would have had an amputation. So it was the best of a not very good few options. But the other thing was that it also didn't work. So 18 months after I had that procedure done, I was re-diagnosed with the same type of cancer. And this time they said that the only thing they could offer me was an amputation. But because we'd had like time and we'd had space from the doctors, and we'd had an opportunity to go away and do even more research, and in that time I'd gained a lot of information about how amazing our bodies are and how they can actually heal, and all of these things that I had no idea about before. And I discovered that if I treated my body with respect and I detoxified it, cleaned it up, looked after my mind, and committed my lifestyle to getting well, there was a very good possibility that I could. So for me, it was the best decision to say no to the amputation and to just try and do everything to live an amazing life and to try and turn my health around.
So there was a lot of risk associated with that, though. Because did they tell you that there was a possibility that it would spread to the rest of your body?
Yeah.
So when you made the decision to not have the amputation, you made the decision knowing that there's a possibility that this cancer is going to spread to your body, and then ultimately that would be the end.
Yeah.
How did you come to terms with that? And much more also, how did your family come to terms with that choice?
Well, I personally came to terms with it by thinking I would rather pass away having tried my very best to live an amazing life and to treat my body well. I figured, okay, if this is the way, and this is how I still feel, if this is the way that I'm supposed to go, then it's the way I'm supposed to go. I don't feel like I can cut my body up and take bits away. That's just my personal belief. It's not for everybody. Other people would feel more comfortable having the surgery and going down that way. But for me personally, there was no decision. Yeah, it was just, this was the way it was supposed to be for me. And I knew something bigger was happening. I knew this wasn't just about me and my cancer. Like I just had this gut instinct that something bigger was at play. And so I just trusted that. And my family were just supportive of whatever I was going to choose. They had also done all of the research, so they knew how I was feeling and what I was thinking and the thought process behind it, so they were behind me 100%.
Wow.
And where did, I don't know if I'm fast tracking too much, but where did the Wellness Warrior start? What happened? Have I missed a journey?
No, well, it pretty much started a couple of weeks before I went over to Mexico to start Gerson therapy. So a big part of my journey has been 2 years of Gerson therapy. And a couple of weeks before I went over to Mexico to start that, I started my blog. Because I was a writer in my past life, and I was very much craving that creative outlet again. But I wanted to do it without being censored, because I was...
edited.
We're not being edited. Because I knew that the things that I wanted to write about would be. So I thought, okay, a blog's the perfect way to do that. I can say whatever the hell I want, and
What year was this?
2010.
Okay, just when blogging started.
Yeah. So there weren't... I mean, blogging had been around for a little while, but it wasn't as saturated as it is now. So I was definitely one of the first, I guess, in Australia of the wellness blogs.
And how did you come up with the Wellness Warrior?
I'd seen it in a lot of places. I think I'd mentioned Dr. Oz had said it a few times. Chris Carr had used it in her terminology, and it just made me feel empowered. It just made me feel really good. So I thought, I'm just going to call myself that. I thought, if I call myself that from the start, then that's how I'm going to feel from the start. And that's how I needed to feel. I didn't want to feel like a victim, and I didn't want to feel like I was suffering from cancer. I wanted to feel like
a warrior.
A
warrior it's a powerful term, you know, and it goes back centuries.
Yeah.
So I loved it when I saw it. I just loved it. Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't about fighting the cancer.
No.
I've never wanted to fight it because I've known it's part of me, and you can't fight against something that's part of you and expect to win. So for me, warrior was just about empowering and being in control of where my life was going.
I remember sitting in, I had a meeting with my web developers, and I was sitting there in reception at the University of Queens, Sunshine Coast, and I looked down and there was a magazine sitting there with a woman covered in cabbage leaves. And I remember picking up, I'd never heard of you before this, and I think...
Were we together?
Were we?
Yeah, I remember the same thing, yeah.
Were we?
The cabbage leaf girl.
Yeah. And I remember reading your story and getting a real tear in my eye and thinking, God, I'd like to meet you one day. So it's quite cute that we're sitting here interviewing you. But I remember reading that, and I remember feeling like you weren't fighting anything. You were standing up and you were speaking a language that really resonated with me around wellness. So tell me how you went from your partying days now into thinking about blogging, and how did that feel to transition into now writing about everything that you weren't in your early years?
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting process. I mean, in the beginning of my blog, I was quite angry and very passionate. I'd just been through a very big ordeal for somebody so young. Like, I didn't really realise it. I've only just started to think about that now. About everything that I had to go through and how my writing reflected that, because I was pissed off at what happened to me. And so I was very angry at what I was writing about. I was writing about all of the injustice with the medical system and doctors and all this stuff. And I've since evolved from that and softened, and my perspective is much wider. But
It's
matured, definitely.
A little bit of wisdom.
I read my old posts sometimes and I cringe and just go, oh God, did I really write that?
I remember Madonna saying that. I look back at who I was when I did like a version. She goes, I can't even look at it. Yeah. So I mean, it must be that whole...
I think I've grown up on my blog. So it's interesting reading those early posts, because I was so many rants.
Honey, I read my diary at 15 years of age the other day. I can't.
That's what it's like.
Yeah, no.
But I can imagine what it would have been like for you. Like, you would have had lots of emotion going on that you didn't know what to do with it.
Yep.
All of these foreign feelings, and you would have been trying to reconcile and make sense of the life that you'd been dealt. Mm-hmm. And you didn't ask for it. Yeah. So getting it out in a blog, I think, also too would have been very cathartic for you.
Yeah.
Because instead of it being in, it was out. Yeah. But then also because you shared your blog so nakedly and vulnerably, I think that's why you would have started to accumulate the following that you did, because you didn't pull anything back. You didn't pull any punches. You just nail it to the wall. You know?
And I still do. And that's the thing. I mean, my blog, essentially, it's evolved, but it's still a personal blog. I still write very nakedly. Yeah. It's all so transparent, and I think that's also why I get criticised, because in the beginning I was writing to a very small audience. I thought it was just my friends and my family who were reading it, and over the years more and more people have started to read it, and now it's like, I think we've hit 4 million unique visitors, which is just insane.
That's amazing.
I know, I checked my stats the other day and I almost fell off my chair. Holy crap. I need to watch what I'm saying.
Maybe not.
But at the same time, no, I don't, because that's why
they want
people
it's
coming over. But I do recognise that I have a responsibility now. But I think that's also why I get criticised, because I am still so open and so vulnerable, and I don't hold back. I say exactly how I'm feeling, and even though my opinion has evolved, that part of it hasn't. I still want it to be very open.
But you know, one of the things I want to say is that when I read your blog for the very first time, I was so engaged. I couldn't stop reading. It was like there was I was compelled to read. You write with such unbelievable compulsion. Is that the word? I don't know what it is. It's just
incredibly compelling.
Compelling. It's very compelling. I had two things I wanted to say because you brought up a second thing. Your responsibility. So, we know what we know now, and we say what we say now on our knowledge. Yeah. And I listen to immunologists who say, do not listen to what I said in 1985 and 1995. Our knowledge has changed. Yeah. We know more about the immune system. So, in my way of thinking, you're writing exactly the way you're meant to be writing it, and you're saying exactly what you should be saying. And I wouldn't curb my tongue. No. If I was you, I would say exactly what I was believing and thinking. And we have freedom of speech, although that is beginning to change. We've got the HCCC in New South Wales that are stopping people like you saying what they want to say. So I say keep saying it as long as you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of the medium that you've chosen, because you're not beholden to anybody in terms of the content that you write and the way that you write. You write the way that you write, and thems that doesn't like it, thems does not have to read it.
Exactly.
And thems that loves it, thems can read it.
Yeah.
I think
so just so that people that don't know you listening to this, what are you talking about that is creating criticism, and how have you learnt to evolve to cope with that criticism?
I think my story in general, it attracts criticism because it's not conventional. I mean, I've gone down a path that is right for me, but it's not right for everybody. And there are a lot of people out there who have strong opinions about the path I've chosen. And these people can be quite vocal about it. So they like to tell me that's not approved.
Well, you got 4 million unique visitors. There's going to be someone that doesn't like what you're saying.
That's the other thing, and I mean that's also why I really I pay attention to the criticism because I try to see if there's any truth in what they're saying, and I like to learn from the truth. I've learned so much from my critics, but at the same time, it doesn't really faze me because I mean.
Did it faze you in the beginning, though?
Yes.
And did it push buttons back to when you were fearful of rejection and not being good enough and everything?
A little bit. I mean, I've never started my blog in order to be popular. So right back then I was more flipping the bird to the computer screen.
Yeah.
I think we all do that one, don't we?
Yeah.
So you talk about the path that you've chosen. Cyndi, if only we had a photo of that. Oh my goodness.
But you do. You get so angry and you just go.
These days I have less anger. Like it still stings sometimes, especially when they're quite personal and horrible. It's why are things so nasty? But I realise that the more people I get on board, of course, the more criticism I'm going to attract.
So you mentioned that you've gone down an unconventional path. What is that path?
Well, I've chosen at this point not to have any conventional treatment. I mean, there is no conventional treatment that is effective for what I have. And my doctors will all agree on that.
Right.
Amputation is all that they can offer me. And even that's not good enough for me because they can't give me a cure. It's just a Band-Aid, really. They said that it's going to spread. So for me, going down the path of just choosing to clean up my diet. Like I said before, I did Gerson therapy for 2 years, which is basically a very long, intense detox program.
So what did that involve? Because as you said, it's very intense.
Yeah,
what is it?
Very intense. So it's hourly juicing. So it's a very intense program that you have to do all the different parts of. So you've got to do hourly juicing, fresh straight from the juicer, veggie juices, and then it's coffee enemas.
What's it?
Coffee enemas.
I knew you were going to do that.
No, see, hoses up bums with coffee in it. I don't know. My favourite.
Have you not heard the way she likes her coffee? She'll blacken up her ass.
Give me strength, you people. I don't mean to criticise. Oh, lordy. All right, carry on. Carry on.
Best part, seriously. My mission in this life is to make coffee enemas cool, and it's happening.
It is. I agree. I agree. You have made it cool
I think so.
and I reckon that little bit short blacken up. You know what?
Yep.
It's going to be a trend. Ground will be doing it soon. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
While you're having your short black, you can go out the back and have another short black. Yeah, here's a short black while you have your short black. Served by a short black. Give me strength. It's always about poo or tart or something. There's always
I guess you brought it up. Jess brought it up.
I know.
Favorite topic. It had to come up at
Had
some
to
point.
come up. You were asking the question.
I know.
Uh-huh.
So carry on.
Yes.
Yes.
Coffee enemas.
Once a day?
5 times a day.
Great.
5 times a day. In the beginning of Gerson therapy, it's 5 times a day. That reduces over the time, but still now I do 2 a day.
She's addicted.
I tried to go down to 1 and I couldn't.
What do you mean?
I just really like them.
It's addictive. It's coffee. It's caffeine.
They make you feel good.
What do you do when you're away?
I take my enema kit with
you
me.
can?
Yeah, I've got a travel kit.
Nice. On the plane?
I don't do it on the plane. I do it when I land, though. It's the best way to clean those plane toxins out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
Best way to make you feel good after a big flight. Straight to the bathroom.
And what? The bathroom at the airport?
No.
At the
Wherever you're
hotel.
going, yeah.
She'll wait that long.
I'll get my bags first.
I can't even picture it, hey? Like, I can't even wrap my head around it. Does it have to be a certain coffee?
Yes, it's got to be organic. You can't go putting, Nescafe up your ass.
I just wanted to check in case anyone was listening.
Just don't try this at home, please.
I've got a how-to video on my website.
There you go. We have a how-to. And where would we go for that?
You just go to my website and type in coffee enema into the sidebar and it'll come up.
But the website is The Wellness Warrior.
Well, actually, I've just switched the URL over to jessainscough.com.
Nice.
Only my own name.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes, but the Wellness Warrior will still take you there. So coffee enemas, and then there was castor oil, which is another, that also gets a few wide eyes. Castor oil every second day, taken orally, first thing in the morning, to give your body a really intense clean out. So it basically gives you the runs. And you sit very close to the toilet because it cleans everything out.
Including the good bacteria?
No, not including the good bacteria. It's a gentle way of doing it. Not like a colonic. Like a colonic will get rid of the good bacteria as well. It just strips all of the muck out of your system.
Now, I know I'm a nutritionist, but I have no idea where castor oil comes from. Where does it come from?
It's a plant.
Oh.
Yeah, it's some kind of plant.
I'll Google that.
You can Google, because I don't know,
What if Google's wrong?
But I believe
Google's
it's a
never
plant.
So it's
Flour or something.
Yeah.
So the oil, if it's a cold pressed oil,
Yeah, cold pressed oil.
So it must be a nut or a seed. Then it can't be.
Or maybe it's not a cold pressed oil. Don't quote me on this stuff.
Yeah. No,
But castor oil,
Wasn't castor oil given in the 50s?
Yeah.
I remember my grandmother.
it's been given as punishment.
Punishment,
It's
yes.
been given, it's been given.
it's a traditional. It is actually a traditional treatment. It's just like iodine was seen as a poison, but it was used as a traditional treatment for at least 100 years, and it's now coming back into vogue because they've realised that what they thought was the poison, it was due to a research project, is not.
Yeah.
And it's the same with all these old traditional healing arts. Herbs are coming back. Everything's coming back. Coffee enemas. I don't know when that. Hippocrates, was that?
Castor oil comes from the castor oil plant. And it's a species of flowering plant.
I got it right. Good work.
Yeah, the evolution of castor and its relation to other species are currently being studied using modern genetic tools.
So it's a very old plant then, obviously.
Its seed is the castor bean, which, despite its name, is not a true bean. Castor is indigenous to the southeastern Mediterranean basin in eastern Africa and India, but is widespread throughout the tropical regions. Castor seed is the source of castor oil, which has a wide variety of uses.
Comes from the seed.
Wow,
If
it's
you
a
constipate
seed.
it, it will clear that right up.
That's what I'm sure it was like an old wives' tale for
totally.
constipation. Yeah, my grandmother used to talk about it.
It's really powerful.
And you'd have a teaspoon. Was it a teaspoon of molasses or something they were giving as well? There was like you got a teaspoon
I used to
of
take 2
molasses
tablespoons.
of castor oil
And that would just clean you out.
Yeah. Clear me out. You have to stay very close to the toilet.
within minutes.
Half an hour, probably.
Where do you get it from?
The organic store.
Right.
Health food stores can order it in if they don't stock it. That's what
And
we used to
online,
do.
probably.
Online, yeah,
Yeah.
just make sure it's organic.
Yeah.
Do you still take
Chemist, no. I would like to, but after doing it for so long,
I like that look.
Okay, so you but hang on, let's just clarify this. You won't have a teaspoon of castor oil, but you'll shove a tube up
2
your freckle.
tablespoons.
Okay, so you
And
won't
it
have
makes
to...
you feel like you're hungover. It's horrible.
righto,
The
okay.
taste is bad. You're out for the whole day. You can't do anything.
Oh, really?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, right.
And I had to do this
And
every
you did
second
this-
day.
Okay.
Every second day, I was pretty much out of it.
Were you over there doing this?
I was in Mexico for 3 weeks,
Right.
and then I came home and I did it all for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What else did you have to do?
I had to completely overhaul my diet, so that was the other massive part of it. So I had to eat all organic, still to this day. It's my biggest thing. I had to eat basically vegan, so and a lot of food. Like my diet was the same every day, but it was a lot of food. So I had like rolled oats for breakfast every day. Lunch was a bowl of Hippocrates soup, which is a special veggie soup, a big plate of salad, and a baked potato and cooked vegetables. So I'd have all of those elements for lunch and for dinner.
Wow. That's a lot, yeah.
And you have to. That's part of the program. You can't skip on any of it.
And then you're doing those 13 juices. 13 juices
yeah.
every hour.
Every hour.
So you never really left the house for 2 years, did you? Because I remember when you were in the cabbage dress on the front of the magazine, I went, I'm not going to meet her one day, I'm going to meet her now. So I ended up ringing Jess, and because I felt that I needed to talk to you. I just felt I needed to say to Jess.
What was her number in the magazine, was it?
No.
How do you just get in touch with someone on the cover of a magazine?
I'm sure I stalked her.
Yeah, I remember, I think Howie, your husband, sent me an email and said, Cyndi O'Meara wants to connect with you. I almost fell off my chair. I was like, are you serious? I've got a book on my bookshelf. Me and my mum thought it was the coolest thing. And then Cyndi came over to the house. We were so excited.
Well, she couldn't leave the house.
No,
She can never leave the house. So I went, well, I'll come to you. Yeah. So, and it was just because, you know what I wanted to connect with Jess is that here Jess was a very young girl who had overhauled her life. And I felt that she was a beacon of light for other young women, especially. I know there's a lot of men out there that are in trouble too, but you, for me, was someone who was holding the torch. I was in my 40s, obviously, late 40s when I first met you. Almost 50. But I just felt that, I wasn't getting to that young group. And so I wanted Jess to know that you keep going, you keep doing what you're doing, and you let these people know. And now what I'm seeing, Jess, like you were the first, and now it seems to be rampant.
Yeah.
There are so many young women that are getting this.
Yeah.
And, I was just at a conference, 800 women in the room, and maybe 20 men. And that was it. And they were all wanting to be coaches of health. And, and your name was mentioned by one of the speakers, plus, I think there are a couple of other young women, and I think it's really important. That was how I felt. I needed to encourage you, and I want to meet you.
That's awesome.
It was really cool.
You've gone on to write the foreword of my book.
Yeah, I felt so privileged for that. That was amazing. And your book, Make Peace with Your Plate.
Make Peace with Your Plate. So that came.
How beautiful.
That came about. It was first an ebook. And then I got a publishing deal with Hay House and turned it into a proper book and extended on it. And it's very different to the ebook. A lot of people think they're the same, but it's very different to the ebook. It goes into a lot more of my personal story.
It's a brilliant.
It does actually, yes.
A lot of stuff in there that I haven't spoken about at all on my blog.
But as much as you're speaking a lot to the younger generation, I sent your book to my stepmother who's suffering with cancer. And she just rang the other day and said, I'm halfway through the book. She'd only just got it. I'm halfway through Jess's book. I can't put it down. It's really inspiring.
Yeah.
So she's a grandmother.
Yeah.
And getting something from it. So I think that's the beauty of the way that you're writing, that you are actually, I think it's wonderful. I think it's appealing, and I think it's real.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
And you give hope. There's like so many people go down the path of thinking
And I'm not knocking conventional medicine. There's a place for it, but some people think it's the only answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, for some people, it might be the right answer. But the fact that there's a lot of people out there feeling like it's not right for them, I think you're giving people options.
Yes.
And it's okay. You're still here.
Yeah.
And I think the encouraging part about that is that you are evidence that there's not just one way. There's lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to see that somebody's prepared to put the research in to save themselves, as opposed to just accepting that there's one way and resigning ourselves to one way.
Yeah.
It's about providing choice and options that are viable, as opposed to, you know, when I think about other people that I know that have been through cancers, it's the most frightening thing, obviously, and you know about that. So it's the most frightening thing in the world, and you just want the answer. You just want somebody to give you the answer, and usually that's the medical fraternity, and that's the only place to go. So most people get caught in that whole medical model, whereas you're living, breathing, walking proof of there's actually choices.
Absolutely. And I mean, I still have cancer in my body. A lot of people think that I'm cured because I don't look like I have cancer, and I don't go around saying it because it's not part of my identity. I've completely detached from it, really. It was just part of my journey. I still have cancer in my body, but it doesn't affect the way I live in any way, apart from the fact that it makes me more conscious that I'm treating myself with so much respect on a moment-to-moment basis. And it's a brilliant teacher for me, and I don't feel like it will leave my body until it's taught me everything that it's supposed to.
Jess, why do you think people have to get cancer to live well? Isn't that freaky?
It's so freaky.
Like Carren says it in her talks.
Yeah.
Don't get a bomb put underneath you to wake up.
Yeah.
Why? I'm just sitting here thinking, why are we that ignorant to think that it's not until we're presented with a life-threatening illness? And if I'm right, Cyndi, I remember you years ago saying, how many of you, if you were presented, you'd say this to all your audiences, how many of you were presented with a life-threatening illness would change the way you eat, drink and think? And everybody puts their hand up. And she said, well, statistics show actually only 1 in 10 of you actually will.
Yeah.
Even when they're presented with a life-threatening illness.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be many that would do what you did.
No.
They would just follow the medical fraternity and probably would not be here now.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the easy path by any means. It's tough, but it is so rewarding. Like, you've got to be in it for everything that it is. I mean, it's tough, and there's so many challenging components to it, but the benefits are just amazing, because I look at my life now compared to what it was back then, and there's no comparison. I mean, everything that I have, I have cancer in my body, but my life is so much better now than it was before I had that knowledge. And it's just, I just respect this brilliant body and this brilliant life that I've had the privilege to be in at this point in time.
If people didn't have to get cancer to get this, what would be your message? How would you tell someone,
get this without getting cancer?
Yeah.
Like, what is your message? Really, what is your message now to people to try and wake them up?
I mean, they don't have to be as radical as what I've been. It's definitely not. But it's just making baby steps towards this direction. And just being open to how good they can actually feel. Because that's what everybody wants. All you want to do is feel good. And people don't feel good. So they just need to recognise that there are other options out there, and that they can, I don't know, start to treat themselves better. I think that's the biggest thing. People don't treat themselves well at all. They put themselves last. They don't make themselves a priority. I think
So this has been such an amazing and an inspiring interview with Jess Ainscough that we've actually decided to split it into 2 parts. So next week we're going to have Jess back on the podcast again, and we're going to continue the interview with her, where we're going to go further down the rabbit hole and further on the journey with Jess, where she's going to be revealing more of her experiences and what she's learned with us. You definitely don't want to miss it, so make sure that you tune back in. What we'd really love to hear from you right now, though, is your comments on this part of the podcast, on this part of Jess's journey. So go to our Facebook page at allthews.facebook.com/up for a chat.
Chat and post your comments there. Or you can also post your comments on allthews.thewellnesscouch.com/up for a chat. And join us here next week for more of Jess Ainscough and become part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. We'll see you on the ride.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.